Hey guys, David Tao with barbend.com. The 2020 Reebok CrossFit Games are well underway. We have an updated leaderboard after two events and event results for event 1 and event 2. So honestly, let's get right to it. We're actually going to talk to some really fascinating people from around the strength and fitness world later in this broadcast, coming to you from Brooklyn, New York. But first, the top 5 women after 2 events. We have Tia-Clair Toomey right at the top with back-to-back event wins. Kara Saunders, also of Australia, Christine Best, Christy O'Connell, and Brooke Wells rounding out the top 5 women after 2 of the 7 events here in stage 1. All right, let's move over to the men. Matt Fraser, the 4-time defending Reebok CrossFit Games champion, coming out of the gate hot with an event 1 win and a really strong performance on event 2. He is your leader after 2 events. He's followed by Baden Brown, Griffin Raleigh, Justin Medeiros, and then Jeff Adler. So those are your top 5 men after the first 2 events of stage 1 of the Reebok CrossFit Games. Now, just as a reminder, in case you haven't been following along with the changes this year, stage 1 is a virtual competition that's 30 men and 30 women. It will narrow the field down to just the top 5 men and the top 5 women. The points will be reset, and those top 10 athletes will go on to compete at the ranch in Aromas, California in October to crown the fittest on earth. So we're really paying attention to the top 5 on the leaderboards here. That's why our emphasis all this weekend on the coverage you'll see on barbend.com is really who is in that top 5 after X number of events. A lot is going on with this year's CrossFit Games. To keep up to date on the latest, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Barbend on YouTube. You might be watching this on YouTube already. It's really easy. Just smash that subscribe button. I promise it'll be worth it. Now, I'm joined here in our Brooklyn studio by Ben Garvis. Ben, thank you so much for joining us.
Glad I could be here.
We're at a social distance, so I hope this doesn't feel any more awkward than it might normally. I'm kind of an awkward guy, though.
It's just a preference to stay this far from human beings, anyway.
That's what we would like, even not in a pandemic. So we have our leaderboard, our top 5 we just ran down after the first 2 events. Let's talk about the women's side. Who are you surprised to not see in that top 5 after 2 events for the women?
Yeah, I think you would be hard-pressed to find a single person that isn't surprised to see Sarah Sigmundsdottir outside the top 5. Obviously, she is an athlete with a ton of potential. Every once in a while, she struggles with her mental game, and she seems to be that she is stuck in that rut today.
Well, we don't know exactly. 2 events does not make a CrossFit Games. It can break a CrossFit Games. But we saw her basically have lukewarm performances on both sides. She had a Friendly Fran time that was over 5 minutes. Now, just for reference, Tia-Clair Toomey coming well in under 4 minutes. So she was very, very far behind the leader on Friendly Fran, which is a workout that Sigmundsdottir might traditionally excel at. And then her front squat, she's a very physically strong athlete. She front squatted 255 pounds, which definitely put her, let's put it this way, definitely put her at a disadvantage coming out of event 2, because we had a lot of these very strong women squatting in the high 200s and even into the 300 pounds.
Right. And obviously, Sigmundsdottir has a lot of event left to undertake. She is looking at a strength event in Diane with the deadlift. She is looking at a longer medium distance row. There is potential to gain back. She's sitting in 26th place with 46 points right now. That is a little bit of a hole to dig out of.
And I will say, contrast that with Tia-Clair Toomey. Perfect record so far. CrossFit Games, 200 points. It doesn't get better than that.
It does not get better.
Another CrossFit Games, another set of event wins for Tia-Clair Toomey. It's like clockwork at this point. She's got to be the most dominant athlete in the field, and that's even considering Matt Fraser on the men's side.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about the men. Now, our top 5, just as a reminder, Matt Fraser, Baden Brown, Griffin Raleigh, Justin Medeiros, and Jeffrey Adler. Anyone you're surprised to not see in that top 5 after 2
I
events?
would say that we have all learned our lesson with Björgvin Carl Gudmundsson not to count this gentleman out. Unfortunately, here he is outside the top 5 when the first 2 events have completed.
Another name I'm surprised to not see in that top 5, actually to not see anywhere near that top 5, is Patrick Vellner.
What happened? We all expect Vellner to be right there on the heels of Matt Fraser.
Now, Vellner's had a great season. He won Wodapalooza. He's a stellar open athlete. We know he excels at online events. it's weird for me to not see him here in the top 5. Again, we have plenty of events to go, but Patrick Vellner, who is kind of used to starting from the back and having to make up ground as the games go on. There's not a lot of runway here to make up ground. 2 of the 7 events in Stage 1 have already completed. Vellner's going to have to really pull out the stops and potentially come away with some, honestly, event wins in order to put himself back in that top 5 conversation.
Yeah, we'll see if he comes into the later events today with more momentum, more excitement, and we can make a better judgment call on what that looks like moving forward. But we're definitely curious and definitely keeping an eye on that situation.
All right, let's talk about the individual events in the top 3 from events 1 and 2 for the men and women. On event 1 for the women, Tia Claire Toomey right at the top, hot on her heels, Kara Saunders, and then Brooke Wells of the United States, a really, really fantastic performance on what's an adaptation of perhaps the most classic CrossFit workout. On event 2 for the women, Tia Claire Toomey won with a front squat of 313 pounds. Again, she did win the clean ladder at the 2019 Reebok CrossFit Games, so we know that leg strength is in her wheelhouse. In second place on the front squat for the women, Laura Clifton, and then in third place, no surprise, Kara Saunders. Saunders is actually someone who I personally thought might come away with an event win here. Kara Saunders has never met a kind of squat she didn't like, really performing quite well and living up to expectations and coming in with a third place finish on event number 2. All right, event 1, top 3 finishers on the men's side, Matt Fraser, a superhuman time of 3 minutes and 8 seconds. And I cannot emphasize this enough, a full 47 seconds ahead of second place event finisher, Noah Olson. In third place, we actually have a tie between Scott Tetlow and Baden Brown. So they tied each other, had these finished the workout in the same amount of time. That was 3 minutes and 58 seconds. Really hot on Noah's heels. Event 2 for the men, and this is the one I was personally most excited about on the day because this is where athletes get the chance to lift big, and I'm going to pat myself on the back here a little bit because Griffin Raleigh of the United States is an athlete I said to watch out for when we recorded a video yesterday, and he comes away with a commanding event win on event 2 with a 490-pound front squat. Now, yesterday I thought that the question was going to be whether he was going to eclipse that 500-pound mark or not. A few years ago, that would have been unthinkable for a CrossFit Games athlete or for any CrossFit athlete. And Griffin Raleigh, 490 pounds on the front squat, event win, really impressive stuff. In second place, Tyler Christoffel with 457 pounds. Justin Medeiros, 437 pounds. He finishes in third. And I know we were just going to talk about the top 3 finishers on event 1 and 2, but Matt Fraser, fourth place, 425 pounds. So he won event 1, fourth place finish on event 2. That's why he's your current leader after 2 events on the day. Now, to get some context on just how heavy these front squats were compared to what we might see in the world of elite weightlifting, I caught up with Caffeine and Kilo's CEO and co-founder, Danny Lehr. Danny himself is an accomplished weightlifter. He's actually been around the CrossFit space since 2008, and he won the Masters World Cup in weightlifting in his body weight and age categories last year. So this guy knows a lot about squats. Let's hear it from Danny.
I mean, those are really big numbers, looking at the numbers on the front squats for the men and the women at over 400 pounds for a lot of the men and over 300 pounds for the women. I mean, especially on the women's side, considering if you take body weight into it, those are, world-class numbers, even for some weightlifters. And especially when you have someone like Tia Claire Toomey, who's an Olympian in weightlifting, she's going to be stronger there. But it was also really nice to see, multiple guys over that 400 mark. And then Griffin Raleigh with a 490-pound front squat, I mean, that's extremely impressive, especially if you take body weight into consideration. I mean, when you're talking about front squats, once you get over, even just getting to a 2x body weight front squat is extremely impressive, even for weightlifters. That's kind of where people aim to be. And so getting to that 490 is going to be well past that mark, and that's so hard to do. Just the way it forces your chest to be upright. You don't have really anywhere to go with that. So that's a massive number, right there by 500 pounds, especially for someone who's obviously very fit in other capacities as well as a CrossFit athlete.
A big thanks to Danny Lehr from Caffeine and Kilos for giving us his thoughts and perspective on that event and the strength of athletes in the space in general. We're 2 events into the 2020 Reebok CrossFit Games. We've already had some crazy impressive performances and some frankly shocking disappointments with a lot of action. 5 events left to come. Make sure you're subscribed to Barbend on YouTube to keep up to date with the action and analysis from experts from around the globe. Until then, we'll be tuning in. I'm David Tao for Barbend.com. Big thanks to Ben Garvis for joining us in our Brooklyn studio today. Don't stray too far because we'll be back with more coverage pretty soon.